You are probably pouring one of the most dangerous substances in the world directly into your food every single day, and the scariest part is you have absolutely no idea it is happening. What if I told you that the cooking oil sitting in your kitchen right now could be recycled grease from restaurant fryers, laced with industrial chemicals, and repackaged into a shiny bottle with a health claim on the front? What if I told you the industry behind this has been running these tricks for decades, and the people supposed to protect you are still playing catch-up? Today we are exposing exactly how the cooking oil game works, and why most oils on your grocery shelf are nowhere near what they claim to be. Then in the second half, I am walking you through 5 oils that are genuinely pure and actually make your body healthier every time you use them. Stay with me because the second half of this video could change how you cook for the rest of your life. Most people think cooking oil is simple. Press some seeds, get oil, bottle it, done. The reality is so much more alarming than that. The way adulteration works in the oil industry is not one single trick. It is a whole system of techniques, shortcuts, and outright fraud operating at every level of the supply chain, from the farm to your kitchen counter. And the most dangerous part of that system is how perfectly invisible it is by design. Here is where it starts. When you take seeds like soybeans, sunflower seeds, rape seeds, or corn and press them mechanically, you only recover about 60 to 70% of the oil inside them. For an industrial operation squeezing profit from millions of tons of raw material, that recovery rate is completely unacceptable. So the industry introduced chemical solvent extraction. The chemical they chose is called hexane. Hexane is a petroleum-derived solvent in the same chemical family as gasoline. The seeds get crushed and soaked in liquid hexane. The hexane bonds with the oil and pulls it out, and then the mixture gets heated so the hexane supposedly evaporates away. In 2024, the European Food Safety Authority published a report raising enough concern about hexane residues remaining in food products that they called for a full re-evaluation of hexane as a food processing solvent. The United States FDA does not even require hexane to appear on a food label because it classifies it as a processing aid rather than an ingredient. So you will never see hexane listed on a bottle of canola oil or vegetable oil even though that petroleum chemical was directly involved in its production. You have zero visibility into what residue ended up in your bottle because no one is required to tell you. After chemical extraction comes what the industry calls refining, and this is where any resemblance to natural food completely disappears. The process involves several brutal steps. Degumming uses hot water and acid to strip out phospholipids. Neutralization treats the oil with sodium hydroxide, the same chemical in drain cleaner, to reduce free fatty acids. Bleaching runs the oil through activated clay to strip out color. And then comes deodorization, the most extreme step, where the oil is heated to temperatures between 450 and 500 degrees Fahrenheit under high vacuum to strip out every trace of natural flavor and smell. Think about what that deodorization step actually does. The oil reaches nearly 500 degrees before it ever touches your kitchen. At those temperatures, the polyunsaturated fatty acids in the oil, which are fragile and chemically unstable, get damaged. The process can create trans fatty acids and oxidation byproducts. And here is the cruel irony. The oils highest in polyunsaturated fats are the ones requiring the most extreme processing to be stable enough for a grocery shelf, and they are the exact ones most destroyed by that processing. You start with a fragile oil, blast it with chemicals and extreme heat, strip out the natural signals that would tell you it has gone bad, and then bottle it with a heart on the label. Now that was just the standard production process. The deliberate fraud layer sits on top of all of that, and it happens in ways consumers have almost no ability to detect. The most widespread form is simple dilution. A more expensive oil gets blended with a cheaper one, and the whole mix gets sold at the premium price. This happens throughout the supply chain at shocking rates. The oil most commonly used for dilution is palm oil, or its liquid fraction called palm olein, because palm oil is produced in enormous quantities and is extremely cheap on the global commodity market. It gets quietly blended into sunflower oil, groundnut oil, sesame oil, and products labeled as premium vegetable blends. Without laboratory testing, you will never know the difference. You believe you are buying pure sesame oil. You are actually buying a blended product with a completely different nutritional profile from what the label describes. That is not a technicality. That is fraud. Then there is the recycled cooking oil problem, and this is the one that should genuinely disturb you. Used frying oil from restaurants, fast food chains, and commercial kitchens gets collected after it has been used at high heat repeatedly. This oil has absorbed residues from everything cooked in it, is loaded with toxic breakdown products called total polar compounds, is heavily oxidized, smells rancid, and looks dark and thick. In a legitimate operation, it goes to biodiesel or industrial use. But there is a parallel market where this used oil gets collected by unscrupulous operators, run through basic refining and bleaching to remove the visible color and the rancid smell, poured into bottles, and sold as fresh cooking oil. Research published in scientific journals has specifically examined chemical markers that can distinguish recycled cooking oil from fresh oil, which tells you this problem is documented and real enough that scientists needed to develop forensic detection methods for it. The bleaching and deodorization strips away the color and odor cues that are your only natural detection tools. The oil comes out looking clear, smelling neutral, pouring normally. Your senses are completely bypassed by design. On top of all of that, synthetic dyes get added to some oils to make them look like premium products they are not. Sudan red is one dye that has appeared in adulteration cases. It is added to give oils an appealing appearance that mimics higher quality. Sudan red is classified as a carcinogen. It is banned from food products in most developed countries. And it has still shown up in oil supply chain testing. Olive oil deserves its own conversation, because the fraud here has reached staggering levels. The global olive oil market was valued at over $14 billion in 2023, and is projected to surpass $20 billion within the next decade. That kind of money makes fraud enormously profitable. The most common trick is diluting genuine extra virgin olive oil with cheaper seed oils like sunflower, soybean, canola, or hazelnut oil. Hazelnut oil is a particularly clever adulterant because its chemical profile closely resembles olive oil, making it significantly harder to detect in standard tests. These transparent seed oils get colored with synthetic chlorophyll for green tones, and carotenoids for the golden hues we associate with quality olive oil. You are looking at a product made with dyes and flavoring agents, and being charged premium extra virgin prices for it. Consumer organization testing has found that nearly half of tested bottles labeled extra virgin olive oil from major retailers failed to meet the actual standards for that grade. European authorities documented olive oil fraud cases, jumping from 15 suspected cases in the first quarter of 2018 to 50 cases in the same period of 2024. That is more than a 300% increase in just 6 years. Europol has coordinated raids across multiple countries, resulting in arrests and the seizure of hundreds of thousands of liters of adulterated product. Europol has coordinated raids across multiple countries, and avocado oil is the newest chapter in this story. A July 2026 study testing products for more than 24 brands found widespread adulteration. Researchers found that suppliers are intentionally blending avocado oil with cheaper vegetable oils before selling it as pure. Brands may not even know their oil has been tampered with, because most companies source from third-party brokers, and without rigorous independent testing, the contamination is never discovered. People are paying a serious premium specifically for avocado oil, and getting something entirely different. There is one more dimension to this that compounds everything. Oil goes rancid through oxidation, where polyunsaturated fatty acids react with oxygen and break down into compounds that create oxidative stress in your body. Normally you would detect this by smell. Rancid oil develops a sharp chemical off-odor, but industrial deodorization removes that smell. So you can buy an oil that is already partially oxidized, that smells completely neutral because the detection signal was chemically stripped away, and cook with it not knowing it has already degraded. Then when you heat it further in your own pan, you accelerate the damage. Studies examining commercial sunflower oil used for high-temperature frying showed sharp increases in lipid oxidation markers during cooking, generating toxic compounds at elevated levels. You are starting with a compromised product and making it actively worse in your own kitchen, while thinking you are being healthy. That is the system. Petroleum chemical extraction, extreme heat refining that destroys natural compounds, widespread dilution with cheaper oils throughout the supply chain, recycled restaurant grease bleached and resold as fresh, synthetic carcinogenic dyes, labels using words like pure and natural that carry no legal guarantee in most markets, and rancid oil with the smell indicators chemically removed so your nose cannot protect you. That is what most people are participating in every single day without knowing it. Now the video turns completely. The point of understanding how this system works is so you can step outside of it. The good news is that the alternatives are not obscure or expensive. They have been used by humans for thousands of years. They perform beautifully in the kitchen, and once you understand what makes them genuinely different, you will never look at a grocery store oil shelf the same way. Here are the 5 oils that are actually fully pure and good for your health. Number 1. Extra virgin olive oil from a verified single origin source. Every word in that description matters. Not just olive oil, not just a bottle with extra virgin on the label. A verified single origin product with full transparency about where it came from and when it was harvested. Because real extra virgin olive oil, produced correctly, is simply the juice of olives extracted through mechanical pressing, without chemical solvents, and without extreme heat. That is it. It is not a refined, bleached, deodorized industrial product. It is essentially a whole food in liquid form. Genuine extra virgin olive oil is rich in monounsaturated fatty acids, primarily oleic acid, which is one of the most studied fatty acids in the world in terms of cardiovascular health. Beyond the fat profile, real extra virgin olive oil is loaded with polyphenols, plant compounds with powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. The polyphenols are what create that slightly bitter, peppery sensation at the back of your throat when you taste a quality olive oil. That sensation is literally your taste buds detecting health-promoting compounds. If your olive oil tastes like nothing, it has been adulterated, is already rancid, or was never high quality to begin with. Tastelessness is a red flag, not a neutral indicator. Research tied to the Mediterranean diet, which centers olive oil as the primary fat, has consistently shown associations with lower cardiovascular disease rates, better metabolic markers, reduced inflammation, and better long-term brain health outcomes across enormous population studies over decades. How do you spot the real thing, given how widespread the fraud is? Look for a named single origin. Look for a harvest date on the bottle, not just a best-by date. Oil harvested 2 years ago that shows a future best-by date has been oxidizing in storage the whole time. Look for dark glass or tin packaging, because genuine premium extra virgin olive oil is never sold in clear bottles. Light accelerates oxidation and destroys the polyphenols that make the oil valuable. And pay attention to price. A genuinely cold-pressed, single-origin traceable extra virgin olive oil cannot be produced and sold profitably at bottom-shelf supermarket prices. If the price seems impossible, the product probably is not real. Number 2. Cold-pressed, unrefined avocado oil. Avocado oil solves a problem olive oil cannot fully solve. Very high heat cooking. Cold-pressed avocado oil from the flesh of ripe avocados has a smoke point reaching between 480 and 520 degrees Fahrenheit in genuine unrefined form. That makes it safe and stable for searing, stir-frying, grilling, and high-temperature roasting, where other oils would oxidize and produce harmful compounds. Its fat profile is similar to olive oil, primarily oleic acid, which is thermally stable and resistant to oxidation compared to the polyunsaturated fatty acids that dominate most commercial seed oils. Its neutral, clean flavor makes it versatile across virtually any cooking style without competing with the flavors of the dish. Given everything we discussed about adulteration, verification here is everything. Buy cold-pressed unrefined avocado oil from producers who are transparent about sourcing and production method. Genuine unrefined avocado oil has a slightly green color and a faint natural avocado aroma. If the bottle in your hands is perfectly clear, completely odorless, and suspiciously cheap, it is almost certainly refined, diluted, or both. The 2026 study showing widespread adulteration across major brands is exactly why producer transparency and third-party certification matter as much here as they do with olive oil. Number 3. Grass-fed ghee. Ghee is clarified butter made by slowly heating butter until the water evaporates and the milk solids separate from the pure fat, then straining those solids out. What remains is essentially pure fat with virtually no lactose and no casein, making it accessible to people who cannot tolerate regular dairy. The qualifier grass-fed is not just a marketing word here. Butter from cows raised on pasture has a measurably different fat composition than butter from grain-fed cows. Grass-fed ghee contains significantly higher levels of conjugated linoleic acid, a fatty acid with studied benefits for body composition and immune function. It has more vitamin K2, important for directing calcium to bones rather than arterial walls. It has a more favorable omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, and it has higher overall fat-soluble vitamin content across vitamins A, D, E, and K. Ghee is extremely thermally stable because it is primarily saturated fat with no water and no milk solids that could burn. Its smoke point sits around 480 degrees Fahrenheit, making it excellent for high-heat cooking. It has an extraordinarily long shelf life and can be stored at room temperature in a sealed container for months. The butyrate content of ghee is particularly relevant for gut health, as butyrate is the primary fuel source for the cells lining your colon and has demonstrated anti-inflammatory effects in research. Ghee has been used in Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years as both a cooking fat and therapeutic substance, and modern nutritional science is increasingly providing the scientific context for those traditional applications. Number 4. Grass-fed pasture-raised beef tallow. This is the one most likely to surprise you. If you grew up in the low-fat dietary era, you were taught animal fats like tallow were the enemy. Here is what that story looks like with hindsight. Before industrial seed oils dominated in the mid-20th century, tallow was one of the primary cooking fats used by humans across the world for thousands of years. When major fast food chains switched from tallow to partially hydrogenated vegetable shortening in the 1990s in response to saturated fat concerns, they replaced their frying fat with something containing large amounts of trans fatty acids, which turned out to be far more harmful to cardiovascular health than the tallow they replaced. That is one of the most remarkable nutrition policy reversals in modern food history. Grass-fed tallow is approximately 50% saturated fat and 42% monounsaturated fat, with a very small polyunsaturated fat fraction. That composition is exactly what you want in a cooking fat from a heat stability standpoint. Saturated and monounsaturated fats are not vulnerable to heat-induced oxidation the way polyunsaturated fats are. Tallow has a smoke point of roughly 400 to 420 degrees Fahrenheit and remains genuinely stable at high cooking temperatures without generating the toxic oxidation compounds that damaged seed oils produce. Grass-fed tallow also contains conjugated linoleic acid, fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, and a meaningfully better omega-3 to omega-6 ratio than tallow from conventionally raised grain-fed animals. From a pure cooking standpoint, tallow does things vegetable oils cannot replicate. It creates an extraordinary crust when searing meat. It produces roasted vegetables with superior texture. It makes fried food with a clean, rich depth that seed oil frying does not match. The food industry's abandonment of tallow for seed oils was a cost reduction decision dressed in the language of health science. The actual science on saturated fat from animal sources has become considerably more nuanced over the last decade, and the once solid consensus that it is categorically harmful has fractured significantly under more rigorous examination. Number 5. Unrefined virgin coconut oil. Coconut oil has gone through multiple waves of mainstream opinion, and the back and forth has left most people confused. Here is the reality without the noise. Coconut oil is roughly 90% saturated fat, higher than butter or tallow. But the type of saturated fat is what makes it distinctly different from every other fat. Coconut oil is rich in medium-chain triglycerides, or MCTs. The primary one is lauric acid, and it also contains caprylic and capric acid. Medium-chain triglycerides are metabolized differently from long-chain fatty acids. They travel directly from the digestive tract to the liver without going through normal fat digestion, and they are preferentially burned for energy rather than stored as body fat. This is the metabolic basis for why coconut oil and MCT oil have become associated with ketogenic eating, intermittent fasting, and cognitive function support through the liver's production of ketones. Unrefined virgin coconut oil retains its natural antioxidants, its natural flavor, and its natural aroma. It is stable at moderate cooking temperatures due to its high saturated fat content. Its smoke point is around 350 degrees Fahrenheit, making it well suited for baking and sautéing. The unrefined virgin version is about as close to a pure whole food as a cooking fat can be. It is pressed from fresh coconut flesh with minimal processing and no chemical intervention whatsoever. The critical distinction is between unrefined virgin coconut oil and refined coconut oil. Refined coconut oil has been processed to remove the natural flavor and some beneficial compounds along with it. If you want the health properties genuinely associated with coconut oil, unrefined virgin is what you are looking for. Now let me give you a simple practical framework for the next time you are standing in front of the oil section at a grocery store. Ask one question about any oil you are considering. How was this made? An oil extracted with petroleum chemical solvents and refined at 500 degrees is a categorically different product from one mechanically pressed and minimally processed. Look for cold-pressed and unrefined on labels. Look for single origin sourcing with a specific named location. Look for harvest dates rather than just best by dates. Look for dark glass or tin packaging, rather than clear plastic. Look for third-party independent certification marks. The more transparent a producer is about every step of their process, the more likely you are holding the real thing. For everyday cooking, at low to moderate temperatures, verified extra virgin olive oil is your best daily option. For high-heat cooking, where stability matters, unrefined avocado oil or grass-fed tallow are the right choices. For rich, flavorful cooking and baking, grass-fed ghee is extraordinary. For moderate heat and baking, where you want natural stability, unrefined virgin coconut oil delivers. The industrial cooking oil system we went through in the first half of this video exists not because it is optimal for your health. It exists because it is optimal for profit. Chemical extraction is cheaper than mechanical pressing. Extreme heat refining produces longer shelf life. Diluting expensive oils with cheap ones costs less while selling at full price. Stripping the smell out of rancid oil means it can sit on a shelf indefinitely without anyone noticing. Every element of the system serves a financial interest, and the health cost gets passed on to the people consuming it, which is you. The 5 fats we covered today are accessible if you know what to look for and why the details matter. A little goes a long way in real cooking, and the investment in knowing what is actually in your food pays dividends every single day. You now know how the system works. You know what the tricks look like. You know what to avoid and what to reach for instead. Share this with someone who cooks for people you love, because this information matters for everyone who eats food. Drop a comment below telling me which of these 5 oils you already use and which one you are trying next. See you in the next one.